to What's in the Box, episodes of horror with Donna and Eric. I'm Donna,
And I'm Eric.
and today we're going to be talking about The Cellar by Richard Laymon. This was my third Laymon, and yep, that's the cover
Oh,
that I have.
sound check.
Yeah. So this was more what I was expecting from a Laymon book, because our first two was Body Rides and Night in the Lonesome October. Um, so this was more visceral,
Hmm.
more what I was expecting from a layman, like I said.
Yeah, the way that he's held up as a big splatterpunk extreme horror
Extreme.
writer. Yeah, the
Yeah,
first two. Like I said, I never would have picked Night as the first one in a normal setting, because to me, you have to get into Layman to get to that one to appreciate it. I think, because then you see, oh, it's totally different than all this other stuff we've already read. But it's also I think it's worked out because I think we backdoored into this one, and I think I don't know. I mean, I don't know what you feel about this one since I interrupted you, but um, we'll see. So hopefully it worked out well.
yeah. There will be spoilers, so spoiler alert if anybody hasn't read it. So I guess the premise of the book is this woman finds out her ex-husband has been released from prison and he assaulted their daughter and had abused her. Um, so they take off and they end up in this little town and there's this house that's famous for some, mysterious murders
The
and
Beast
supposed
House.
the beast house. And there's supposedly, the creature that lives in the house and comes out and kills people. And then you have this other story with this guy, his name is Judgment, and he hears his neighbor having a nightmare. He goes and talks to the neighbor, finds out about the beast house, and this neighbor, Larry, had supposedly seen the beast, and he decided he was going to hire Judgment because, surprise, Judgment is a killer for hire, I guess.
Yeah, not only seen the Beast, been in the house and lost his childhood
He,
friend to the Beast.
yeah, he lost his childhood friend. Yep. And so he hires Judgment to go back to this little town to kill the beast. And then, of course, he runs into Donna and her daughter, and
And she's the lady from the first part that you were talking
yeah,
about.
and then
Donna,
it all
Sally, Judgment, and Larry are the four main characters.
Sandy,
Sandy, yeah, are the four
Sandy.
main of the
Yeah.
of the thing. But there's a lot of crazy side characters, just like in the other two. He does
Yep.
love to throw in some side characters,
Yeah, Roy is the ex-husband who got out of prison. Um,
and on par with the Beast, I guess you could say. It's well, what did you think?
so I liked it. It was a great creature feature.
Hmm.
I think the side plot with the ex-husband was really not necessary. I think the Roy sections of the book was just an excuse to put in kidnapping, killing some people because he kills her sister
Hmm.
and brother-in-law, and then he kills another random family and kidnaps their 8-year-old daughter so that he could sexually assault her. Um, there could have been a myriad of other reasons why Donna and her daughter were ended up in this town.
Sure.
You know, I don't know. It was a good book. I just really felt the Roy parts were just kind of padding to add extra pages, maybe.
Or maybe the way to get it to be extreme. I mean, some of the Beast stuff's extreme in a way, but it's not. It's not extreme violence.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
get
because
all the
they're
violence from Roy and then
yeah.
Judgment coming up against him. But um, this is I'm not a fan of the Beast House, and there's four of them, right? So or three of them. So it's not a trilogy I've ever enjoyed. I read The Cellar very early into it, and while some of his books can have a funny, lean to them when they're doing all this craziness, this one doesn't. Um, and yeah, I'm right. I'm not a fan of any of the stuff that he's doing because it doesn't feel splatterpunk in any way. It feels all extreme. So I mean, there's no
Yeah.
lesson to be learned from this book. There's nothing, there's no commentary, there's nothing here other than the craziness of what's going on.
Yeah.
And it's always been one of those ones where I read it. I've read this is the second time I've read it because I didn't enjoy it. I don't think I've read the third one just because it's a Beast House thing. I read the novella that's included with the third Beast House. Um, but this time I did enjoy the book itself. It's well written.
Yeah.
And it does go, and even though we don't enjoy the Roy section, it does feel like it is necessary to drive that plot forward. And you know what? He could be using that to set up the second book. We don't know what that the girl that saves the little girl that's being raped.
Yeah,
She
because when
lives in the
he,
town.
yeah,
So, and that girl has nowhere to go to. Her family's been killed. I'm sure she may have grandparents or something, but if they don't know that at that time, you know. So I
yeah,
don't even know if I've read the Beast House, to be honest with you. I don't even know if I read the second one.
yeah, yeah,
I
because it
just
does leave
wasn't.
it, yeah, it does leave it open-ended with, because Joni is the girl that got kidnapped. And I forget the name of the girl that worked at the lodge or whatever you
Yeah,
want to
she's
call
just
it.
there for a flash, and it kind of shows you that Roy isn't typical in his depravity. He seems to just care if they're female.
Yeah, because the daughter was 6 when he attacked
Yeah. So
her.
yeah, I mean that gives you the idea that he's, only interested in very young children, prepubescent children. But then he
Yeah,
attacks that other girl. She's probably 16.
yeah,
He he's planning on doing that to his wife.
yep.
She's going to be much older, and is there reference? Does he do anything to the other people before he kills them? I can't remember now.
Yeah, I don't remember because the only one I think I don't think he did anything to Joni's parents, but
Yeah,
I
I think
think
he
he did.
kills them pretty quick.
Yeah, I think he does some stuff. I know he tortures the sister of
Yeah.
Donna, Karen.
So,
Um,
but yeah, I know I totally get what you're saying. But if it ties into the next book, then you could see how it might work that way. Um,
yeah. And with the whole Roy thing, I was thinking this big like smash up like brawl between him and Judgment, but it's not. Like he walks into Donna's cabin, hotel room, whatever, and Judgment like knocks him out and like ties him up. And then
yeah,
they like throw him in the beast house and the
of
beast kills him
course,
and you know.
we're talking about a guy who preys on people that are weaker than he is, and he doesn't have any formal training versus a guy who obviously has been in the military or
Yeah.
something like that. He seems to have all of that down throughout the book. The only thing that I find frustrating is that none of the characters have the sense enough to just get out of their own way.
Yeah.
I know he was hired to kill the beast, but they could have easily just let it go. It feels
Yeah.
like at the end that's kind of forced, and then we get all these, but then we find out that there's more than one, and all this terrible stuff's going on in the house, and it does feel like it's a lot of depravity for depravity's sake. And
Yeah.
but what's crazy is this book fits in perfectly with what's going on right now in indie horror and stuff. And this thing was written in 1980. And so you want to talk about a book that influences people now, like we started talking about when we started doing the show. I mean, this is one of those books. This is a book that was written forever ago, and it has the blueprint.
Yep.
And what's funny is that I can almost kind of see a structural layout for Poplik with the Cellar as I was reading it. I have multiple storylines going on, and some of them you don't quite get initially, and it ties up for the most part at the end, but it does leave it open for other things. And this, I mean, I'm reading the Cellar thinking, oh, okay, this seems like it might have been on the back of my head when I was writing that. So at least structurally, and it
Yeah.
kind of has that same vibe to it. So
Yeah. I really like the sections towards the end where they had the diary.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, that was interesting. Kind of a throwback, kind of give you some filler
yeah.
to let you know what actually happened and how the Beast House came to be, and about the creature itself.
Yeah.
Um,
Still didn't get really ever an explanation on exactly what the creature is.
Yeah,
Like
he
you know what
seems
it
to be
looks
some
like and
sort
all
of
that,
weird, yeah, some sort of
but like
weird
where
ape.
did it come from? Is it an alien? Did it like I
Well,
thought there
yeah.
was going to be a tie-in with the because they kept pointing out the monkey umbrella holder.
Hmm.
So I'm like, okay, is this going to be like a case of, somebody was in like another country and was in the jungle and found this creature and brought it back over to America with them and
Well, this is probably where I'm doing you a disservice because I don't know because it probably is in the other books.
probably, yeah.
And
And I
as I
will
was
read,
reading The Cellar, I was thinking I had read Beast House, but I don't remember anything about it. But I know for a fact I didn't read the third one because I just read the secondary story because they put two books into that one. So I've flushed the Beast House from my head, which is going to probably be a bad thing when I write it again. When I accidentally think it's my idea and I write the entire Beast House, so.
yeah,
But this is really starting to sound familiar.
yeah.
But
Man, this is a
so the
great
answer
book.
might be there. So maybe we have to read two and three to find out
Yeah,
creature itself. But he does that thing though that I don't mind. I don't mind the open-endedness of it. Not everything's explainable, but he
yeah,
does go into detail about the creature
yeah,
and all of the weird things that goes on with its anatomy. So
yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
and so it really does feel like the elements of horror in this one feels way more um it's weird. It's hard to put in. It's one of those books where you can kind of get the vibe when you talk to people that are really big into the erotica stuff. This book is really for that crowd, the ones that want
Mhm.
you to write the crazy sex stuff um, that can get violent or aggressive.
Yeah,
It definitely plays into that, but the beast aspect of it, when it's attacking, and I don't think the beast cares about um, gender or anything because it did attack the boy when Larry was escaping, and even though Larry won't come out and say it, you can kind of get the vibe that the beast was having his way with the body.
yeah. Just the way things were phrased, I got that feeling too. Yeah,
So the beast itself is just maybe it's some sort of metaphor for some insatiable sexual appetite or something. And it's just, his way of including in the story. Although really what honestly this is probably is just him writing a story about a horny monster that's in
Y-
a thing and killing everybody. Not
yeah.
everything needs to be,
Deep
dissected.
and yeah, meaningful.
But this was one of his earlier books, and this is what he's come swinging with initially, you know what I mean? And then you're like, okay. Um, but yeah, no, I enjoyed it this time. I enjoyed it enough to be like, well, I should probably reread or read the second and third one to finish up just having those done,
Yeah,
because I have everything. I think I've read everything but like maybe four. So as a person that loves Layman, I should probably finish I
yeah,
mean, the fact that I've finished the lake and I haven't read some of these,
yeah,
none of this is as bad as that nonsense.
yeah. I
So
hated because you had mentioned that it felt rushed at the end, and it totally felt rushed at the end. Judgment's death got its own chapter, but it was like 5 sentences.
yeah,
And I'm like, and they were kind of like disjointed, almost kind of like what he was thinking at the time that it was happening. And I'm like, wait, what? What? I didn't even know that he was dead right away until I read the last chapter because I was like, okay, what actually is going on here?
yeah, it has that hectic feel to it. Um,
Because you got all this action going on because he started off in the beast house and then he went through the tunnel and ended up in the house
Yeah.
where the
And if you
beasts were
break this
living.
down structurally, it's done really well. It's really well done character wise. He does a really good job with that. The action sequences are very well done. But you're right, at the end, and I don't know, maybe it's like that because that's how it was like. He's kind of got that shaky cam going, and we're
Yeah,
not getting all the information, and then we kind of get the information at the very end, like you said. So, um, but if this comes out, this is before everybody's got a hard on for extreme horror and splatterpunk. So you can kind of see why a lot of people pick him as the guy that's
yeah.
I mean, look at all this crazy shit he wrote, and to the point where he basically was, you know, um, they didn't publish him here forever. He basically he had to go overseas to get published.
Oh, okay.
And that's why he's so popular in England. It's because that's where they were publishing his stuff in the 80s and I guess early 90s. You know, he would have Century Dance or Cemetery Dance or whatever was doing the little things here, but there wasn't anybody big until Leisure came, and then Leisure starts to reprint all his stuff, and then you start getting. That's why the Cellar one we have. This is a Leisure copy, and that's the cool thing about Leisure. Leisure gave us access to these in a everywhere. I mean, I bought some Richard Laymon at a Walgreens.
Wow.
So, but yeah, in the 80s, you couldn't, he wasn't getting, I mean, he was getting his um, pen name stuff done, his Western and, his YA stuff that he wrote, everything under different names, Carl Layman and a couple other things. But his hardcore horror stuff, that was all overseas with
Mm.
maybe a few here or there, or the special editions that you could get, limited covers, that kind of stuff. And then he started gaining popularity again, and then they started printing them, and Leisure does it. So um, I don't know what would have happened. I mean, would we have known if? Well, you kind of think we would have because you go to scares and they talk about them all the time, and
Yeah.
Keen's has stories about them, and they were all in that group as they were coming up. He was kind of there, maybe already established, and um, but it makes you wonder if he would be more of one of these whispered voices, like more of a thing where it would be cool if you even knew who he was, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Although many times I'll say, "Do you know who Richard Laymon is?" when I'm selling or talking to people, and they'll be like, "No," and then I'll be like, "Oh, okay, well that just takes out half the spiel for my first book." So
Yeah.
they have no clue what I'm talking about. So. But
Yeah.
if you know what if especially if you've read the Cellar. So now when you say, "Do you know who Richard Laymon is?" These people most likely have read the Cellar because it is the one that's so popular. Um, our friend Mike Davis, who does the used collectible paperbacks at Texas Author and Reader Con, he has a funny story. He worked at a bookstore when it came out. He was working in the back of a bookstore doing some stuff, and he said that it was all the female staff that would come to him and say, "Hey, have you read this? You get to read this book." And so he
Oh,
said
wow.
enough people said something to him that he finally sat down to read it, and then he was like, what's going on?" Because I mean, comes out of I could imagine reading this in the 80s.
Yeah. Yeah.
This would
That
have
for
been
the
like,
80s, this book would be way
yeah, it seems like it would be
banned.
taboo because it's got
Yeah.
so many things in it. It's almost as if he wrote it to push every button, which, but
Hmm.
the difference is he's doing it in a style that's actually readable and enjoyable.
Yeah.
When I always complain about some, there are writers today who are just trying to push the envelope, but they have no technique or idea what they're doing. And so they just have a checklist of gross. And
Yeah.
so that's let's make sure I have this in there and that, it was all throwing some, pedophilia or whatever. And then, um, but they don't know what they're doing. And so it's
Yeah.
just ramblings. This is a very well constructed book, very well written book.
Yeah.
Now, out
And
of the three we've read, it's still three.
yeah. And so for the people that are watching that may be hesitant, there is a lot of like, child essay in it, but it's fade to black. Layman
Yes, yeah,
doesn't
he
go
definitely
into
doesn't.
detail about like what Roy does to the little girls. It's just like it's fade to black. It's not detailed. So I think that part of it, even though I found it unnecessary to like the Beast House
Yeah,
storyline, it wasn't like overly, it wasn't graphic
no, it's
what Roy
just
was doing.
graphic enough. It was, but which in a way is worse because your imagination's going to run with it,
Yeah.
and then you're
Yeah.
stuck. Like well, so,
Yeah, he
but
stuck with the graphic with the beast killings because it really didn't go into a lot of detail when he was torturing Karen either.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It was the other side that got the graphic details, especially when it came to the sex and stuff. So
Yeah,
I mean, it is extremely graphic with the beast side of it.
yeah,
Um, but it sets a tone, and I guess what it's. I mean, we don't really need him to be doing all that stuff, Roy, to know that he's a bad guy. We know he's a bad guy.
Yeah,
Um,
because he was in jail for assaulting Sandy. So that's,
just the idea of him is
yeah,
the way he interacts with other people, you can tell he is a cad, as probably how Larry would talk. And that's the other funny thing too, is not to get off, but Larry is just like in Night, the friend. The other literary guy that's his
yes,
nemesis.
yes,
It's the same character. It's just a different age.
yeah.
And you will see that a lot. And then we definitely got some rump in this one. And I was surprised we didn't get cheeseburgers. No, we did. Roy had some cheeseburgers.
Yep.
So there was that too. But yeah, you can definitely see he always writes that one character that has that vocabulary of somebody that you immediately think of as a theater major, or, kind of like a theater nerd kind of
Yeah.
thing, from the 80s. But
Yep.
um yeah, we didn't need to have the extra stuff for Roy. So that makes me feel like maybe we see that character again later on in another book. We'll have to look.
Yeah. But he died, so I don't know. Or maybe he
Not
wasn't
Roy,
really
the
dead.
girl. The
Oh, the
girl.
girl. Yeah.
So you have the sexual assault of the girl that causes whatever you need for the next story, whatever he's going to try
Right,
and
right,
do.
right. Yeah.
Maybe she
Joni.
becomes a beast hunter. I don't know, but I don't know
Yeah.
why she would, because the beast had nothing to do with her.
Yeah. But
Um,
then on the other hand, we have Sandy and Donna are captured and Donna's pregnant by one of the beasts.
I think both of them are, because they
Yeah.
were
So
both
how
going
many
back and
years?
forth.
Yeah. So how many years had gone by? Because if Sandy was pregnant, because I think at the time she was like 10.
I was reading she was older, like 12 to 14.
No.
You don't think she was that old? For some
Mm-mm.
reason, I was thinking she was a much older. So 10 to 12, you're thinking?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how much longer then. Um,
But she was talking very mature because she's like, "Oh, I hope I have Seth's baby." Um,
yeah, she was talking crazy, is what she was
yeah.
talking, but yeah, no, I get that. Trying to think here.
Yeah, so Sandy turns into like pro beast.
Yeah,
Um,
well, and I guess that's what they're trying to tell us, because in the journal, the lady that wrote the journal, it becomes
fell in love with
infatuated.
Xanadu.
And then you have this lady that runs the Beast House tours. She's basically got like 4 or 5 of them doing her every night, while the guy that they think's her husband's tied up in a bedroom out of the way, probably for his own safety, because I have a feeling that they get violent or whatever. Because the lady's covered in wounds because they're beasts. They have claws
Scars and
and
stuff. Yeah.
stuff. But yeah, so everybody that gets to have sex with the beast becomes completely infatuated with it, and to the point where Donna is almost there, except for
Yeah.
she's still upset about losing Judgment, who she connected with in this book. And that's one thing that Layman does often, is he has almost instant connections with some of his characters, which, I guess it's the speed formula, where they're in a high pressure thing, and so
Hmm.
they kind of
But at least he
pass.
didn't have multiple women.
Yeah, yeah. This this is the first one that focuses on just the one. But and I think that might be because it's mostly the woman's point of view, or she's like Donna's the central
Yeah.
character. Um, everybody else is kind of just in her world. Um, but you can tell they've been there long enough that they're to the point where they're friendly with the captives, and they're almost to the point where the captives are really willing to let them go. This
Yeah.
is why I don't think I read The Beast House. Why I've always thought I've read The Beast House is because I don't know if those characters show up in the next book. And I feel like if I had read it, I would know.
Yeah.
So I'm all this time I thought I've read it and just purged it, but maybe I hadn't. But by the time I finished this one, I was very confused with my memory of what I had and hadn't read when it came to The Beast House. But I've never been a fan of this book because of all of the extra nonsense that's going on in it. It's not any of the things that I gravitate towards when I read these things.
Yeah. And it
So
took a very long time for it to get to the cellar part of it. Because the
yeah,
name of the book is The Cellar. So you're automatically thinking cellar is going to be a big, like,
and it's not like a cool horror Cellar thing. It's just the hole where the monster comes out of to go have sex with people. So
yeah.
it doesn't even really. I mean, I get it. It is at the end when Judgment's going through the house. Then yes, I guess you could consider it bad, especially when they get in the. Does he use the tunnel to get to the other house?
by this point it's like a secret doorway
Yeah, so
because
they've
the trunk
widened
is
it
in
and
front of
stuff.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they made it so it wasn't so bad. And that's probably what that guy that runs the ticket booth and who is the quote unquote, lover of the lady that survived the beast attack. Her whole family was slaughtered in the 30s or whatever. But then, you look at it, well, how old was she supposed to be? Like 60 or 70?
Yeah, 60s at least.
Yeah, it's getting it on with like four or five beast monsters. That was kind of,
Yeah, and what about the son too? Because she has the son,
and he's,
which totally forgot about him, and I can't remember what his name is.
and no, was it Andy? It wasn't Andy, was it?
It wasn't Andy,
No, it was
but
something like that. It was something like All American.
yeah, because he's the one that finds Donna and Sandy on the
Yeah.
side of the road and brings them to the small town.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what it was. Let's see. He scares the tar out of him too. Remember, he comes up to the
Yep.
door and
Yeah, he's like, "Let me in, let me in."
yeah, because he's not all there, but he's Axel.
Axel.
Yeah. Yeah, Axel. Axel Kutch. That's his name. I knew it was something that didn't, if it reminds me, it makes me think of small town.
Yeah,
And he was a mechanic. It's like everything about it. Or he seemed like he was like the handyman like he did stuff to help that other guy at the house and stuff. Um,
yeah.
I
Yeah, I
don't
mean,
know.
it was a good read.
Yeah, it's definitely, I mean, we have to read them all to rate them, but it's in the upper tier of what we've read, though. I've enjoyed the other two more.
Yeah,
I thought they were more, I don't know, imaginative, but I definitely can see why this one's popular and why people love it.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I
I
can see
enjoy.
how it influences people. It's a good monster story.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I won't say more than the other two or less than the other two. I think for me, this book is on a different level
It's its own
than
thing.
it's its own thing.
I
And
mean, out of the three, what did you say? You said the first one was, it's kind of almost like a crime thing. It did have the trolls under the bridge and all that stuff, but at the end of the day, it did feel more like a traditional crime story or whatever. The
yeah,
second one you said fantasy, and then this one
fantasy.
is hardcore as it
Yep,
gets. So
yeah. And then of course we got some got our covers here. This is the leisure one you said, right?
let's see. Yeah, and it's a cool cover. I mean,
Yeah,
it definitely doesn't. I mean, I guess the claw marks would make you think of a monster, but it doesn't really tell you anything.
yeah.
And
Doesn't
he's
really
right.
look like a cellar door because it's got the deadbolt,
Yeah.
but
Which also leads you into thinking there's something bad going on if they have to deadbolt it, like there's people being held or
true.
something like that. But on all the leisure, you get that awesome quote from Dean Koontz. You're going to have a good time with anything he writes, which is, so far true.
Yeah.
The only thing that you won't is the lake, and then everything else is subjective. It's just how much do you enjoy whatever the subject matter is.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, um, in a way, I'm happy we reread this because it did reinforce my um, appreciation of his craft and storytelling.
Yeah. Good. This one's a pretty cool cover. This is
And it really gives the idea that there's a monster there because that's not
yeah.
even, I don't even know if that's, I mean, to me, that's a reptile. But,
Yeah, it does look very reptilian. Um,
but yeah, I think that's a pretty cool. I mean, that would definitely get me to pull it off the shelf if I was
oh
walking
yeah, for
through a
sure.
bookstore. I would see what this is about. I kind of like the way they've got it set up.
Yeah, so the year's grisliest bestseller.
And even the font looks like reptilian. So I'm like, they really
Yeah,
leaned into it.
but it's not really a reptilian. It's
No, I would never have come up with that,
yeah. Then we have another one with the hand.
which is cool. I mean,
Yeah.
it's very, you know, I mean, it's classic. You can get away with it. That's a really
And
cool tagline.
yeah, conceived in the wild terror of nightmare.
And that's a great quote at the bottom. So I mean, this is a time where I think that helps. You've got this, it really sells the idea of it. And then you see that hand kind of doing what it's doing, and you're like, okay, definitely need to check this out.
Yeah,
I think this one was one of those limited edition ones.
yeah.
Like you
Kind of,
got 100 copies or whatever.
yeah. Kind of don't really know what's going on. It took me a while to determine that there's a house there.
Yeah.
Um, so it's kind of,
I'm rarely a fan of this limited edition covers. They never, I get that it's unique or whatever, but a lot of times they miss the mark.
yeah,
And this is another case of this. I would not be like, oh, I must have this if I was a big fan of this specific book.
yeah, yeah. I wouldn't,
Maybe it looks better in person. I don't know.
yeah, maybe. And I guess I suppose it looks kind of like an owl to me up here.
Yeah, yeah. It doesn't make much sense what they're trying to do here. It's too, it's like everything's through the eyes of like a fish lens or something. It just
Yeah,
doesn't look right. And if that's supposed to make you think of the way they look, the way that they actually see, I don't really care. So
yeah,
I think this is a cool cover just because of the way they take advantage of the darkness, the black of the cover.
yeah. I like that too. I don't like the
Oh,
stained glass in the door
no, the
though,
stained glass makes no sense, but the blue light does because remember the whole house is lit in blue light, and
because
they
it
knew
was easy
somebody
on
was
the,
in the cellar,
yeah,
and
yeah, because
so
the
that
blue
at least
light,
ties in,
yeah, the creature ha was light sensitive, so that's why it only
right?
came out at night. That's why they did the tours during the day, and the other house with no windows was all lit up with blue lights.
And that's where the
So,
family lived, and then the beasts would, I guess, live in the cellar there too, and do their business at night with whoever was in the house,
yeah.
unprotected.
And this one's pretty cool. I mean,
Yeah, this
it's,
one makes me think of like modern stuff that we see sometimes today. And I
yeah,
like the way, again, the use of the black with a little bit of the picture is just perfect
yep.
because it leaves so much for your imagination to fill in.
Hmm.
Um, I want to say this is about, or this is an English cover. They did like this run over there where they would put a couple of them together with these kinds of covers. But this one only says the seller, so I don't think it has all of them, but you could find all of them, I think, collected in something similar to this. But usually
Yeah,
it's like one or two books that are kind of the same that they put together. Maybe they have the same theme, or maybe they have the same action kind of pacing. And then you could get like two or three in an omnibus of Layman over there. I think those started coming out in the 2000s.
yeah.
Because
I
every time I
just,
would see that, I would be like, oh, where can I find this cover? And then it's like, oh, you got to order it on eBay from overseas. So
I just went to look for. So the Beast House was published in 84.
And I wonder if he was able to continue to put those out over here with no issue, or if everything was kind of pushed overseas for a little while.
Yeah. And then the third one, the Midnight Tour, was not published until 1998.
Oh,
Bless you. Bless you.
thank you.
And then book four, Friday Night in the Beast House.
Yeah, so there is four. Is that the one that
Yeah.
has the other book with it? Like I think it's
Um,
in the wilds, or
doesn't say. I'm looking on Goodreads. But this one was published in 2001. So between two and three, it was a long time
well,
between
you
the
kind of get
two.
the feeling where maybe that's when Leisure started pushing,
Mm,
started printing them, and then maybe that's when there was a reawakening for that kind of horror over here in the
yeah,
States, because that's when some of the people we know, like Keen and stuff, starts putting out stuff. When The Rising come out in the early 2000s, and
yeah,
so I don't know. It'll be. I mean, I'm going to sit down and read. I think The Beast House and the other two. Um, they could finish the set. So maybe I haven't read three and four. Like I said, I don't remember reading two though.
yeah.
But
So
but it was a good.
Friday night in the Beast House. The hardcover is $40 and it was put out by Cemetery Dance.
Yeah, so I knew they were putting out some of them as special
Yeah.
edition and stuff.
Yeah, I can't see anything that shows. Wow. The Beast House is 600 pages, or sorry, the Midnight Tour is 600 pages.
One of them, yeah, that might be it too. Friday Night in the Beast House. Let's see. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, it's at Friday Night in the Beast House. It has the Wilds, the novella The Wilds in it.
Oh, okay.
So it's a shorter one. The last one's a little shorter, but they include another one. I've read The Wilds, so I know I've got that one. So, anyways, yeah, I mean, I guess he leans into it. It's a
Yeah.
popular one. I know a lot of people love it. It's always been one of those that I've like, I've read it and it was fine, but I never was celebrating it like some of his other stuff. And I think I like some of his other stuff because of how unique it is. Because this
Yeah.
one does fall in line with what most people or a lot of people think of with traditional extreme horror and stuff.
Yeah.
But at the time, it's also very early in the idea of extreme horror and splatterpunk. So now we're talking about him setting the pace. He's setting the standard. And so again, that's why Richard Laymon is one of the people that everybody should be talking about if they're celebrating extreme horror.
Yeah. I liked it. It's not the best thing I've ever read. Um, and I really wish I had more to talk about, to
Yeah, this
say.
really it's very straightforward. There's
Yeah.
nothing that we can conject. There's no conjecture needed. It's
Yeah.
really A to B to C to D,
Yep.
and then maybe if we read the sequel, then there's more to add to it, and we can go back and forth. But this is a very straightforward,
Mm,
filled with blood and sex kind of book.
yeah. Yeah, it definitely wasn't like the other ones because we did our last episodes on his books were like an hour, hour and a half, and
Yeah,
it's just because it's like there's just so much going
to
on.
unpack. Yeah, yeah, and I think in a way, I mean, it just shows how skillful he became. Like technically, it's very good Cellar, but I mean, his imagination, some of the stuff he's doing, in especially in Body Rides, that one has a lot of, in a way, magic carpet kind of stuff. Just that genie in a bottle, all those
Mysticism and
ideas, and then you get a little bit of the slasher mixed in with it, and enough of the different things to really keep your attention for 600 pages or whatever it was. It was like
yeah,
five something, right?
yeah,
This one is just at 300.
yep. Yeah,
So and
I'm
then
curious
and
about the Midnight Tour though, because the Midnight Tour is like 600 pages.
right, right. So
And
well, maybe we need to just do an entire Beast um, episode. Read the rest of them and just break down the next three.
yeah, yeah, because I'm
Um,
very intrigued and I definitely want to know what happens next. I want to know if Sandy and Donna make an appearance in the next book, if Joni
yeah,
makes an appearance in the next book. They all have different characters, like main characters, because I was briefly skimming the descriptions. Um, but of
yeah,
course, it's not going to tell you like, oh, and Joni comes back or,
right,
something like
yeah.
that.
Well,
Um,
we'll have to dive into that one, but I think we're gonna do what we discussed about doing next. Did you want to go to Traveling Vampire Show, or did we want to do something in between the two?
no, I think we were going to do, I mean, I've been wanting to read Traveling Vampire Show. So if we do that next, that's perfectly fine with me. I haven't read a good vampire book in a while.
Yeah, we will. Yeah, we'll come up with what we're gonna do. That probably will be the one we do. Just depends on how much we want to buffer in between it. He's got three vampire books, and all three of them are incredibly unique, and all of them are totally unique to the genre of vampire, and all totally different from each other. So, the Stake, Bite, and Traveling Vampire Show. So, if we read one of them, I would probably say we definitely need to read Traveling Vampire Show because that's the one that he did that won the
Yeah,
award. So,
yeah, for sure. So yeah, probably our next Layman episode will be the Traveling Vampire Show. And if you want a good creature feature, if you haven't read any Layman, and you're into Splatterpunk Extreme, this would probably be a good place to start.
yeah, for sure.
Um, you know, definitely
I,
if you like the extreme, don't start with Body Rides or.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Night of the
I
Lonesome
would read
October.
this. I would read Endless Nights. I would read um what else would be a good one that you could do? It's extreme. Oh, Among the Missing. That one's pretty good for extreme, I think. One Rainy Night, you could probably that's got some cool elements to it, but it's got some extreme stuff in it. And then The Stake, even though it's a vampire, it's kind of on par with The Cellar. It's got a lot of the same themes going on, just with a vampire and stuff. So just depends on what you're looking for. But yeah, what is it? Now I can't think of the name of it. I'm gonna Darkness Tells Us. That's probably in my mind, that's the most extreme one there is. But it may be because it was the first one I read and it just imprinted on me. But
Yeah,
Darkness Tells Us is one that I think is just completely balls to the wall crazy.
yeah.
So,
Actually the other one because we were thinking about doing Vampire Show, or I keep calling it the library one. The librarian who
oh yeah, In the Dark.
in the
We should
dark.
do In the Dark.
Yeah.
That one's such a good read.
Okay.
And that one technically maybe. I don't want to. Well, we'll read it and then we'll discuss what we think it is.
Yeah.
It blurs the lines. It's got a lot of subgenres jumping around in that one. That's a fun one. That one got made into a movie, I think, in Australia, but
Oh,
I don't think I've ever seen it. I don't know if it's one of those ones you can ever find. I just remember seeing it on IMDb, loosely based on it. So,
cool.
but
All
maybe we
right.
can
Well,
hunt that down too if we can. If we can find that, maybe we can do a double feature of the book and the movie. But
yeah,
for
that would
sure,
be
the
cool.
book In the Dark, yes, that one will be a fun one. I forgot we had discussed reading that one. That was
Me too,
probably,
until you said dark, and then I'm like, oh yeah.
I think that was the second or third one I read. So it's definitely one of those that put me on track for to be a layman fanatic.
Nice. All right. Well, we just pivoted before we even finished the episode, so we'll be reading in the dark.
Yep, sounds good.
Next. So we will see you on the next episode.
Take it easy.